Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Hope with a review on density. So remember that density is defined as the amount of matter in a given amount of space. And the amount of matter is measured in mass, and the amount of space is measured in volume. Therefore, if you need to find the density of an object, you need to have its mass and divide it by the volume. The units that go with volume can vary. You will see centimeters cubed. You will also see milliliters. The correct one to use, it doesn't necessarily matter because they are equal to each other, as you guys can see. However, it is more commonly used, or centimeters cubed is more commonly used for solids because you can calculate the volume by taking the length times the width times the height. Whereas volume for a liquid is generally in milliliters. This is like what you would see on a water bottle or a soda can, the volume measured in milliliters. Some of you guys might remember the density triangle, and if you don't, here it is. How you use this is if you want to calculate the density, you will take the mass divided by the volume. If you want to calculate the mass, you will take the density times the volume. And if you want to calculate volume, you'll take mass divided by density. Be careful with the density triangle, however. If you are memorizing this, if you memorize it incorrectly, then your calculations will be wrong. So don't memorize it wrong and your calculations will be fine. Here's a list of common densities. Notice that all of these solids have their densities listed in centimeters cubed for the reason that I was talking about before. You'd calculate it with length times width times height, where all of the liquids are measured in milliliters. And also notice that there are temperatures associated with this density, or with these densities. That is because the different states that a substance are in, so solid, liquid, and gas, their densities change. That's because density is a physical property. All right, now let's practice calculating density with displacement. And for this example, I'm not going to worry about sig figs, but how we will calculate density is with the mass. Take 482.63 grams, and we are going to divide it by the volume. We'll take the change in volume, so it started at 600, ended at 8. Therefore, that rock has a volume of 200 milliliters. We will divide that out, and we'll get about 2.4 grams per milliliter. All right, let's have you guys get some practice. So, calculate the density of mercury if 1.00 times 10 to the second grams occupies a volume of 7.36 centimeters cubed. So, complete this one first. And once you have the density, then use that density to calculate the mass of this volume of mercury. All right, let's check your answers. So the first one, I took the mass and divided it by the volume. When I simplify it to the correct sig figs, I get 13.6 grams per centimeter cubed. Then to calculate the mass of 65.0 centimeters cubed of mercury, I am going to use the density basically as a conversion factor to cancel out centimeters cubed and end in grams. So I'll get 897 grams for that mass. Let's try another example. So we're going to go about this one in two parts. Please work on this first section. We'll go over the answers, and then I will give you guys the cue to work on the second part. So be working on the first one, A through C. Okay, let's check your work. So the first one, calculating the density of the lithium metal, same process as before. We will take the mass and divide it by the volume. then what would the density be if it was an 80 milliliter sample of lithium metal? Well, if it's still lithium metal, meaning the solid, the density is not going to change just because we have more of it. So we doubled the volume of it, and therefore our mass would double as well. Just because you change the mass or the volume of a substance, as long as you're not changing the state, the density remains the same. Then a piece of lithium metal was placed in carbon tetrachloride, which is a liquid with a density of 1.6 grams per milliliter. Will it sink or will it float? The lithium metal will float because it has a lower density than the carbon tetrachloride. All right, now I want you guys to work on this second question. Go right ahead. All right, let's check your answers. So the mass was given. Nothing extra had to be done with that. But to calculate the volume, you needed to do length times width times height. Oops, I accidentally went from millimeters into centimeters over here. Sorry about that. Other than my unit being incorrect, everything else looks okay. So if you are ever given the dimensions, know that you have to multiply all those three together. And that's how we get the millimeters cubed, is by taking length times width times height. Make sure to always simplify it and write your answer with the correct number of significant figures. Either answer that is boxed in is correct. Again, remember my units were wrong. It should be grams per millimeters cubed. All right, let's try another one. What is the mass of a cube of aluminum that is 3 centimeters on each edge? The density of aluminum is 2.7 grams per centimeters cubed. Okay, let's check your answers. So again, you had to calculate the volume by multiplying the 3 centimeters 3 times. So the volume you'll get is 27 centimeters cubed. I use the density to cancel out centimeters cubed so that I end in grams, or that I get the mass. And since we need 2 sig figs, my final answer is 73 grams. All right, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions.